Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Nicole Holland here. Today, I'm very excited to have my dear friend, Michelle Levitt, in the studio, in the virtual studio with us. She's been the marketing and creative director for Heil Sound for over 14 years. Heil Sound makes microphones and headsets for stage, studio, podcast, broadcast, and ham radio. Michelle's background is as a musician, an artist, a marketer, and a creator. She's also the former CEO of Too Much Neon, a professional podcasting company. She knows from experience that personal development is professional development. When Michelle isn't traveling and going to concerts for work, she can be found traveling and going to concerts. So, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Nicole.
For sure. So, we're going to be talking about microphones. And this is something that I really think in today's day and age, every business owner needs to have because, well, obviously I'm biased because I'm a podcaster and I'm a podcast publicist and I have very high standards for my clients and for my guests and for myself. But what I'm seeing too is that, we're not, maybe 5 years ago when people would do webinars even, or they would go on a radio show or anything, they could get away with just creating content and it didn't matter what it sounded like. But nowadays, because people are so much more attuned to listening, to talk, to the spoken word on podcasts, on different mediums, if it's not clear and it's not a professional sound, people will tune out. And so people who used to get a lot of views and a lot of engagement on webinars, even though they're video and they're slides and they're not audio only, I think because people are so used to having quality audio, if it's not quality audio, they'll disappear. What do you think about that?
I think that's really accurate. So with business owners trying to be on podcasts or having vlogs or even just, producing some content of their own, I think it's really important that we recognize that what you're putting out there is a representation of yourself and your business. So if you took a picture that was out of focus, you would never post that on Facebook and be like, here's my new product, because it's out of focus and it's a bad picture. So if your message is an audio message or even a video message, which one half of that is audio, you're going to have to make sure that what that video or that audio or that picture or whatever that thing is, that is representing you as a company and in a professional way.
Right. Makes so much sense. And can I just share that my listeners who've been watching the videos, and P.S., we're going to show some stuff today. So if you are listening on the podcast, come on over to the NicoleHollandShow.com and check out the video for this as well, because you get to see some stuff. But I'm very excited that you gave me this beautiful
I did.
microphone that matches my hair.
I
How
know.
exciting. Those
I
are
know. When
beautiful
we
gifts.
came out with that mic, I was like, Nicole needs this microphone. It's perfect.
Nicole so needs this microphone. And my hair is not 100% today. And the lighting's not 100%. But what's cool is like, I love how your color kind of with the light, it, it sort of changes colors and my hair does the same thing. So like the other day I was recording and it was so on point. It was like a perfect match.
That's
Anyway,
great.
so let me just bring this down. So Heil has been around for a long time. You guys are very well known in the music industry, and some of the top podcasters in podcasting have been talking about your microphones for quite a while. But I I kind of felt like when I started podcasting that Heil microphones were like too above where I was at. Like they weren't a starter microphone, you know what I mean? So you guys have a really wide range though. And even this one, the PR77D, this is a much more affordable microphone than say, is it the PR40 that you're using there?
Yeah. So I'm using the PR40 and I'm using a very fancy one. This is the matte black with the gold grill. This is the one Pat Flynn uses. And we do make a variety of finishes too. So there are more budget friendly options than the one that I'm using. I just wanted a fancy one because we were on video today, and you have a fancy one. So, um, but we have a wide range of prices in our products, and we do have some that are way more accessible to, say, the casual podcaster or somebody that just is a guest on podcasts. And I actually have one with me here. So if you're on the video, you can see this, but I'll explain it as well. It's the PR22 UT. And this little guy, it sounds a little bit different than the one that I'm using right now, but it doesn't sound far off from the one that Nicole is using. And it's really just your basic dynamic handheld microphone. You can use this if you don't have a stand. You could use it just holding it up to your mouth and listening. And I say listening because one of the most important things, and one of the things I talk about a lot, is that if you're going to use a microphone for anything, you need to hear yourself. So like I have earbuds in, so it looks nice. You can use earbuds, you can use headphones, you can use whatever you want. Nicole's got some too. So regardless of what kind of microphone you're going to use, you need to make sure you can hear yourself, because if you're off the microphone, there's no amount of post-production that can fix that. And so having just a really good basic microphone is a great starting point for any business owner. And it's really important. We use a lot of big words in the audio industry to describe our products. This is a dynamic microphone. That means it's a very forgiving microphone. It's only going to pick up what's right in front of it. And that's important if you're recording in an office space. So my studio here at Heil Sound is like just outside my door. There's a manufacturing facility. There's all manner of noise that's coming from there. And my microphone is designed not to pick that up. And so I don't have to soundproof my room. You can use this in a conference room. So that's really the reason we recommend these for podcasters or home vloggers, because it's a minimal commitment in terms of money for the product and also for like soundproofing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to actually touch on a couple things because popular when I started online, which wasn't that long ago, I didn't know anything about podcasting, but I knew about webinars. And so the go-to mic that people recommended was the Blue Yeti. And I have the Blue Yeti Blackout Edition. I love it. It was awesome. But when I started podcasting, what I found was it really picked up so much. Like there was construction going on behind my house, and you could hear the jackhammers as if they were happening in the studio. And that was really challenging. So like my first year doing the summit in 2015, I used to have the Business Building Rockstar Summit. I used the Blue Yeti, and then I think it was when I was recording for the 2016 one, it was just impossible. My audio for my show was terrible at the beginning, and I had no idea that this dynamic microphone could make such a difference. But Michelle, I'm thinking to like just give our listeners a little bit of a role play here. You've been helping me understand like where I need to be in terms of where the microphone is. And even when I have guests, sometimes I'll ask them to get closer and get closer, and they're never close enough. So it really depends on your mic. But I'd love to do a demo with me and with you so our folks can hear the difference. And if you're watching this, guys, you can see the difference. So like right now, I am probably like an inch and a half from kissing my mic, and you can hear me at one level, and I'm going to keep my voice going the same way, but I'm going to like raise this and move it farther away. So Michelle, can you hear a big difference now?
I can hear a huge difference. Yeah.
Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you at all. I can hear you, but just barely.
Yeah. And so then even if it's like up here, it probably sounds a little bit different than if it's down here, or depending on where the tilt is. And then if I put it in a almost proper position again, it sounds different. But my voice, my level of sound hasn't changed out of my mouth. I'm wondering, can you do that also with what you're using so that we can hear a different mic, but at different
Yeah,
places?
sure. And we have a really fancy word for that. So if you're going to buy a microphone and you see these words just to help you understand what that is, we call that the proximity effect. And it makes sense once you think about it. Like the effect of your audio is based on the proximity that you are to it. So you have something like a Blue Yeti, which is meant to pick up all the sound that it can. And this microphone is not meant to do that. And the one you have is also not meant to. This might actually be a little more dramatic with my microphone than with yours because it has a big, heavy metal casing on the back of it. So when I talk into the front of my microphone, it sounds like this. And as I gradually move off the microphone, it's going to drop off probably almost completely because that's what these are designed to do. And that means that if there's like street noise, because there is a big, like there's a 5-lane highway on the other side of this wall and a manufacturing facility on the other side of this wall. And so I'm strategically pointing the business into my microphone into a quiet corner. And you can see behind me, I don't have any soundproofing. I have hard drywall walls, ceilings, and I have laminate floors in my office. Not the best environment to record in, but it sounds good. And that's because that's what these are designed to do is just pick up what's right in front of it. It's also why they're used on live sound stages because you can put it like on a drum kit, you can mic every single thing and it only picks up the thing that it's pointed at. So it's kind of the same concept.
That was amazing. I didn't even realize what a difference that would be. I hope that I hope that I have to make sure when my audio editor edits this, they don't like balance the sound or like,
Yeah, try to find my audio. Good luck with
so
that.
if you guys are listening and you want a real demo of what that sounded like, you definitely come to the show notes page and check out the video because I couldn't believe the difference that made just in the way that you moved that. So something else you said I wanted to ask about, but I can't think of it right now. I do think it's important though to dig in a little bit more um, to who needs to have these and why they need to have it. Like I think you made a really good point about the professionalism and like what you put out there. That's what people are judging you on, and so you can have the most like you can have $1 billion company that is like just crushing it. And you're either, if you don't have good sound when you do interviews, you either don't care, like God bless Gary Vee, but I mean, I think he's amazing and I used to want him on my show, but then I realized I don't ever want him on my show because he doesn't care. He'll show up from anywhere and just in, any kind of Apple iBuds, earbuds or whatever, like he'll just talk and he doesn't value what's going he like taxi cars going and whatever. So either you just don't care about the host and the audience that you're speaking at, or you just don't know. Or,
Yeah.
like and so I think it is really important that everybody has a certain level of I love it when my clients come on board with me and we start working together and they get that. At first they're really confused. They're like, I don't know what to do with the microphone. Like I'm not an audio person. This doesn't make any sense to me. But it really is so easy nowadays to plug and play essentially, that you don't really have to, you have very basic things you need to know to set it up. And then once it's set up, you're good to go and you sound like a pro. Yeah.
Yeah. So, to address the point of who needs a microphone, when I first started working for Heil Sound, the only people we ever talked to were, audio engineers for live sound, audio engineers for studio sound, audio engineers for broadcast. Like we didn't even talk to the talent. It was just the engineers. And so we did a lot of speaking in technical ways that engineers understood. And our customer base has really rapidly changed just in the past few years with, people that are Twitch streaming, gamers, people that are podcasting at home or in their office space, or business owners who are just going to be guests on shows as well. If you're somebody who's an expert in your field and you find yourself doing a lot of these podcasts, you don't want to become known as the person to like, wow, they'd be really great to have on my show, but their audio always sounds terrible. And when you're the call-in guest, and the host is using a professional microphone and you are not, there becomes a big audio difference. And I've even heard some really big podcasts lately that will have a call-in segment or something, and the audio is so bad that I actually can't understand what the person's saying. So who cares what you're saying if I can't understand it? I'm just going to have to tune out eventually. And I think that's something that more and more people need to understand, that it just takes a few little steps and a little bit of practice. That's one of the things I tell people the most. They're like, well, I don't like to hear myself talk, so I don't wear headphones. Well, if you would just practice a little bit, you would get more comfortable hearing yourself. And if you would just practice a little bit, you'd probably get better at using your microphone. Like Nicole and I are both talking very closely to our microphones because that's how these are designed to work. I can modify how I use my microphone and back off of it, but it's going to change how it sounds and it's going to pick up more room noise. And I don't want it to do that. So, it takes some time of learning how to do that and to not project into your microphone so you're not creating all these plosives. But really, those same things apply if you're using earbuds or something like that. There's a learning curve to make them sound better. So why not just get a piece of equipment that's going to make it easy for you to sound better instead of just, using whatever you happen to have, and maybe it'll sound good, or maybe no one will be able to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and as a host, it is really challenging, especially since this is, one of my high horse points, because I like as a listener, because I didn't even realize how important it was as a host for a long time. And sometimes, I mean, I still do interviews and I'm using a different technology platform and it's picking up the wrong mic and the host doesn't tell me I sound terrible. And then I listen to the interview and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even share this with my people because I sound like an amateur, but I'm a professional. So
Right.
that's another thing, right? Like you don't want to take your time and create this co-created content as a guest and then get it back and recognize how bad it sounds. That's not something you want to share, and it's not a good look. But as I became a listener more and more because of what I do and getting people on podcasts and getting them that publicity, I listen to shows all the time, and if I hear a show that the host doesn't care about their audio, I can't put my client on that show. And it could be a great synergistic match. It could be a big, big win for the host. It could be a big, big win for the client. But because of that audio, it's like I know how people respond to that. And I think, yeah, more and more people are getting more and more attuned to expecting clarity and similarity. And so, yeah, like you said before, if the host has a professional microphone and you're speaking into your computer or into earbuds that are that's horrible sound. If you guys ever listen to audio and there's like this really irritating in the background and it doesn't go away, but it doesn't happen consistently, it's because somebody's talking on their earbuds and their hair or their shirt is hitting it. And I just did an interview that, I've got my team listening to right now to tell me, can we even air this? Because it was they were having mic problems and I agreed to let them use earbuds, but I don't know if I can put it out. So it's a really awkward situation for a host that cares about their audio as well. And I learned a lot from John Lee Dumas. I mean, he was my mentor in starting a podcast, and he always said audio is the thing. And if people show up to his, to do an interview with him and they don't have an external mic, if they don't have proper audio, he cancels it. And so, yeah, everybody should have it because you never know what's important to the other person on the other end. And you don't want to be that person who shows up and puts that host in a predicament to decide, do I cancel this? Do I air it? Like it's a disservice to my audience. You know what I mean? So I don't mean to go down a rabbit hole here, but I really just want to stress how important it is, in my opinion. And that's why I'm so glad you're here, Michelle. And that's why also I'm so glad that Heil is making different options for different levels of audio needs. But I think it's so important that anybody, even if you're going to do a podcast interview once or twice, like get a mic. It is worth it, because you think about what is one new customer, one new client worth to you. And you're losing that if you come off in an unprofessional way. So make the investment of $100 or whatnot, and have that as an asset and a tool that's going to make you stand out as a professional.
Yeah. And I think too that business owners, like I know here, we buy things that cost way more than that, that have way less value. And I think that's something to consider. And I like to be on other people's shows, and I'm the kind of guest that shows up, and sometimes I have better audio than the host, which is fine because I always sound like I know what I'm doing. It makes me sound like I'm an authority on podcasting, which I am. And like currently, I'm not hosting any shows, but I've hosted shows in the past. And I like to be a guest on shows, but I love it that when I'm a guest on somebody's show, they always say, "Oh, you know what you're doing. I don't have to hold your hand through this. Your audio is going to be good. There's no worry there." And when I had my podcasting studio, one of the biggest problems we had was with call-in guests. We had an in-person studio, so it was about 50% of the time the guests were in person, and we could control the audio that way. But we had professional audio engineers recording these podcasts. And for the times that we had people that were on earbuds or stuff like that, like the audio engineers were just dying because they knew there was nothing they could do in post to fix it. There are only so many tricks, and most of those tricks won't fix, like, oh, I wore a big chunky necklace and I'm wearing earbuds, and it's just like grating across that thing, and there's no way to fix it. And we used to just stop shows and be like, we're going to need you to do this or this or this. We eventually started sending headsets out to guests because there was just no way to tell what they were going to show up with. And sometimes they'd be really big guests, like really big guests. And you think, okay, this is going to be a really fantastic show. The content's going to be fabulous. And then the audio was so bad, it was just like, I think we're going to have to pitch it.
Yeah, I think it happens so much. It happens so much. And it begs that question, do they just not care, or do they just not know? And it is a really awkward position for the host to be in, to say, wow, this is somebody I have been, going after. There's somebody I invited. There's somebody I really want on the show. But now I have to make that decision. Do we pitch it and then, you know, risk the relationship with this guest, and risk, um, making them upset that they wasted their time? Or do we play it and then risk damaging our reputation with our listeners? So it's such an uncomfortable position to be in, and it's so easy to never put anybody in that situation if you
Yeah.
have an external mic. You really, really, in this day and age, need an external mic if you're going to be doing any kind of positioning as an expert, whether it's on a Facebook Live, whether it's on, a video that you're putting on other social channels, which every social channel has video now, or whether you're going to be on somebody's podcast or do a remote interview for television, or or radio. And I didn't even think of that, Michelle, but I remember now that I said it, I have seen, because I don't really watch the news. I try and I try and avoid pop culture and everything going on in the world and live in my happy place for the most part. But sometimes I do get exposed to the real world, and I've I've seen news segments where it is like, proper professional news, and they have somebody calling in, or on a
Mhm.
video for a segment, and it's like really hard to listen to. And I think, gosh, if you're going to be on national television or international television, don't you think you should probably have a microphone? But
Yeah. And a lot of people are listening to podcasts in the car or in the gym or somewhere where they just have earbuds in and there's a lot of other noise going on. And so I used to actually tell my audio engineers, you need to double check your audio. And I know this is going to kill you, but like in your car or with earbuds in at the gym, like someplace else to hear it, because you have to think that whatever noise is being entered in through the bad audio is being compounded by how the person's listening to it. So it makes it much worse.
Wow. Okay. So that's a lot of like, oh, don't do this, which is not, like it's funny because Michelle and I are always laughing and like
Yeah.
always upbeat. It's like, wow, this almost feels very doomsday, but we have a solution for you. So yeah, so this is a resource sharing episode, and I am super excited to now be a proud Heil owner and to be supporting Heil and to have Heil supporting me, and that they've got all these different options. And so Michelle was super, super gracious. And I don't know if she's actually allowed to do this or not, but I convinced her to give my audience a discount. So if you are saying to yourself, as we're talking, oh my gosh, that's been me. I've been the guest and I didn't even realize that. And it does sound bad. We've got something for you. And if you're one of the hosts that I'm not working with yet, because you're amazing and I'd love to work with you and I'd love to send incredible guests your way, but your audio is not up to par, fix it now. Michelle, you're giving my listeners 15% off of any of your mics. Is that right?
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah. So you guys have to go to heilsound.com/shop, and the coupon code is Nicole Holland, and you'll get 15% off your entire purchase.
Yay. And that's all together, Nicole Holland, NicoleHolland. However, you should know that by now if you're a regular listener. And in addition to going to heilsound.com/shop to shop, you can also head on over to the show notes page where I'll have everything linked up in the show notes. And again, you can see the video, you can see the different microphones and our little demo on how how it sounds depending on proximity of where you're speaking to the mic. And is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you or that you'd like to share with my listeners before we wrap?
Oh, let's add really quickly that the promo is good through December 31st of 2019. And yeah, I think, one of the biggest things that I used to tell my podcast clients, who were often CEOs of businesses, who were trying to create content for marketing purposes, is that you need to be representing yourself in a professional way, and you need to practice, and you need to always be listening to yourself, and you need to always be trying to improve. You wouldn't just, if you needed a PhD in order to do your job, you wouldn't stop at a bachelor's degree just because, like, well, I think this is good enough. And I think when you give your business a good enough attitude, I think it shows. And I think it can at worst be judged as, apathy. And, at best, it's just arrogance to think that it doesn't matter how I say it. It's just what I say. And it's like, well, maybe not. Because if the person actually can't hear you, then you've just wasted everybody's time. And anybody that wastes my time on content, that is a crime so bad these days. There's so much good content out there that when I turn something on, and like even a video, and the person's recording their audio with earbuds, I just almost immediately click off it. It's like, because the next video over, that person is using professional equipment and it sounds good and it looks good, and I'm going to watch that content.
Yeah, such a great point. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Nicole.